Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. This is episode 172. I hope everyone is having a great day, great night, wherever you are around the world. A lot to get into on today's show. What a game last night from Indiana and Miami. Indiana capturing their first national championship ever in program history. If you would have told me couple years ago that Indiana would be in the national championship, I would have thought you're crazy. We'll get into that as well. NFL news, the divisional round recap games. Sean McDermott being fired after the Buffalo Bills losing to the Denver Broncos. Is Josh Allen that guy? Is he ever going to get Buffalo over the hump? The Dolphins hiring Jeff Hafley as their new head coach to a 5-year deal. The Falcons hiring Kevin Stefanski. The Patriots beating the Houston Texans in a juggernaut defensive battle type game. Patriots prevailed. Got my red Drake May jersey on today. AFC Championship game this Sunday. NFC Championship game. Sam Darnold and the Seahawks taking on the LA Rams. Caleb Williams' magical season. But before we get into the show officially, make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Well, with all the news to start for today's show, I think we'll just start off with the divisional round games. We'll do the NFL, and we'll do the NFL coaches, and then we'll get into college football, the national championship recap, Indiana's magical season, and then we'll talk a little Kyle Tucker for the Dodgers, and we'll wrap up. So that Denver Broncos Buffalo Bills game was everything and more. The spread originally opened up at -1.5 for Buffalo, and then it moved to Denver -1.5. And Josh Allen had 4 turnovers in that game, and James Cook fumbled the ball in the beginning of the game in the first quarter, and Bo Nix looked like a really darn good quarterback. And then, of course, Brandon Cooks and the controversial play with Jaquan McMillan. You could take that so many different ways, and I've watched that clip 25 times trying to figure out if that was a catch or if it wasn't a catch. If you're asking me, watching all the angles that I saw, I understand that Jaquan McMillan, the Denver Broncos corner, was basically taking the ball away. Jaquan McMillan was. That was not an interception. I can't picture in my mind how many more times processing that the ball was intercepted by Jaquan McMillan, and the refs not even reviewing that. So yes, if you're asking me, I would 100% think Brandon Cooks caught that ball and he was down by contact. I understand it looked like they were rolling around, and they can say that there was no evidence to overturn that, but the refs not even reviewing that. But no, the Buffalo Bills did not lose the Buffalo Bills did not lose that game off of that one play. Josh Allen's turnovers in the game basically costed them that game. Yes, if that call would have been not an interception and it would have been ruled a catch, they probably would have won that game. But we don't play what ifs. The Denver Broncos were up 10 points in the first half of that game because of Josh Allen's turnovers, because of James Cook's fumble in the first quarter. So yes, Denver 100% deserved to win that game. They outplayed them. Both teams had opportunities in overtime, and I just feel for Bo Nix. I really do. Even as a Patriots fan, I know we have to go into Denver this weekend. It is not going to be an easy task. I really would have loved to play Bo Nix, but the Bills lost that game not because of that intercept, not because of that call. Yes, that was a catch by Brandon Cooks, but we don't play what ifs. On this podcast, I don't play what ifs in life. What if that happened? What if this? No, it happened. They lost the game, and Sean McDermott got fired. We'll talk about that as well. But, the Bills have to figure out how they can get Josh Allen a number 1 wide receiver. Again, I mean, they had Diggs, of course. They got to figure out what they're doing on defense for their run game. Their pass defense was good, but some of their drafts, of course, have not been the greatest in previous years. But, we'll talk about that as well. But, the Broncos deserve to win that game. Josh Allen's turnovers costed them that game. I was vouching for Josh Allen as Superman on the podcast last week. The only reason why the Bills were even in that game remotely close was because of Josh Allen. But you live and die by the sword. That's the type of quarterback Josh Allen is. I have said this years now. Josh Allen's play style is never going to change. That type of play style can catch up to you. He led the NFL in turnovers a couple of years ago. He is turned the ball over 4 times in this game. So that play style from Josh Allen is never going to change. That's what you have to live. That's what they live by. That's his play style. That's his game, how he plays. He's a riverboat gambler. He's very careless with the ball. If Josh Allen didn't turn the ball over in the first half, and the Bills Broncos didn't score that, didn't get those 3 points off that field goal, we may be talking about a different game. But they were down 10 points in the first half because of Josh Allen's turnovers, because Josh Allen is careless with the ball. But also, too, Josh Allen's play style and the way he plays the game from them being in that game was the only reason why they were in that game, was because of Josh Allen. So it was a great game overall. You can sit here and you can process it in your head. Was it a catch? Was it not by Brandon Cooks? I would love to hear what people have to say. I personally do not think that was a catch I don't think that was an interception by Jaquan McMillan. I thought, looking at that so many different angles, that he's down by contact, and then people are going to say that he wasn't down. They were both rolling around on the ground for the ball. Cooks never maintained full possession of it, but it looked like from what I saw that he was down. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I would love for people to tell me otherwise, but that's really how I feel. The play changed everything. Go down the quarterback stats. Allen had 3 touchdowns to 2 picks. Nix had an exceptional game. He had that great throw at the end to Marvin Mims in the end zone, and you just hate to see Bo Nix go out that way. And it was so weird. It was like, oh, the Broncos going to the AFC Championship with Bo Nix, and then you find out after the game that he fractured his ankle. And I was trying to figure out where he fractured his ankle. He fractured his ankle not on the QB kneel down. It was the play before that, where when they were getting Will Lutz in position to kick the field goal to win the game. But yeah, I mean, tough way to go out for the Broncos. I don't like that. I'm not like hoop hopping hooray that Bo Nix is out for the AFC Championship. Patriots get to play the Broncos with Stidham. Yeah, I still think it's gonna be a great game. However, though, we'll move on to the Niners and the Seahawks NFC divisional round. I mean, there's really not much to say. Other than, of course, Zach Charbonnet getting hurt, and the Seahawks gave the Niners BTA, and you could take this so many different ways. The Niners, they were so banged up. They didn't really have anybody. I mean, Seattle was obviously the better team. They beat them a few weeks ago, but Rashid Shaheed's electric kickoff return in the first play of the game was just absolutely insane. Lumen Field was just rocking. Good for Seahawks fans, but Sam Darnold's definitely going to have to play much better. I know the game wasn't really the weight wasn't on Sam Darnold's shoulders because of his oblique injury. They let Kenneth Walker do the role, take the lead and be that guy. It's tough that Zach Charbonnet got hurt, but Sam Darnold's going to have to pass for more than 115 passing yards. What was it? Was it 115 passing yards? Something like that. Sam Darnold's definitely going to have to play much better. I'm sure he's going to be much healthier this game, but super excited for that one. I really don't have much to say. I expected the Seahawks to win this game. I didn't think it was going to be 41-6. I don't think most people did, but of course the Niners were really banged up, and I'm not going to make that as excuses. You play with the guys you have on the field. The Seahawks deserve to win that game. They were the much better team. They are a much better team than the Niners, but I would have loved to see, in a perfect world, the Niners healthy and see what they would have been able to do, but we're not going to get that. Well, as a kid on Christmas, I always get excited for certain things. If you open certain gifts, so I was like a kid on Christmas on Sunday after the game for the Patriots. I was extremely nervous for this Patriots-Texans game because of the Texans defense, because of the way Drake May was turning the ball over against the Los Angeles Chargers in the first game. It was a snowy game. It was a perfect, magical January Foxborough game. It made me think back to the time when I was a young kid watching the Patriots with Tom Brady. Divisional game. We would kick ass in the divisional round, and it was just like that. And the CJ Stroud was absolutely terrible with 4 interceptions. Kayshon Boutte with the one-handed catch in the fourth quarter. Drake May dropping it right in the bucket. I mean, it was everything you could ask for and more. The job is not done. We are not done yet. We have to go to Denver. But we'll talk about this game. The Texans defense was everything I thought it was and more. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are just absolute freaks off the edge. And Drake May had a problem with the ball security. That's another big thing there. He's got to figure out how to understand when the pressure is coming. Yeah, it's a really tall task for Will Campbell, and Morgan Moses to defend those two defensive ends. But they've both got to play much better. The run game was good. We had some plays. Of course, Drake May still had 3 touchdowns on the day. Stephon Diggs had that one great catch in the end zone there. Pop Douglas with the one. in the first quarter there. I loved it. It was a great game from my Patriots. But like I said, job is not done. Now we can flip the page to CJ Stroud and the 4 interceptions he had. Well, I know a lot of people here on social media, and people have been sitting here saying, oh, CJ Stroud is terrible. He's not a franchise quarterback. But that right there is a case because they want to discredit the Patriots defense. Oh, 31 other quarterbacks could have came in there and beat the Patriots. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Justin Herbert last week for the Los Angeles Chargers played against the New England Patriots. Yeah, but his offensive line was extremely banged up, and they have the worst offensive line without Alton Slater. It's like, okay, that's a perfect way to discredit the Patriots defense and how good it has been in these past 2 games. It's like, let's give credit where credit is due. We're not saying the Patriots have a bunch of all-stars on defense, but you know what? That defense plays when the lights come on. Milton Williams, stud. Christian Gonzalez, stud. Davis, another great game. And those guys play together as a unit. And people can keep doubting us. And I love people disrespecting the Patriots defense as a whole. Like, oh, the Texans defense, the Seahawks defense, the Broncos defense. It's like the Patriots defense is pretty darn good too. We got some good players on that defense. Marcus Jones. So I love when people trash talk the Patriots defense because they've been kind of doubted all year. And now they're in the AFC Championship. But yeah, questions definitely have to be brought up about CJ Stroud. He 4 interceptions. He looks scared at times. You can sit here and nitpick and pinpoint certain things about the Texans, how their offensive line was banged up and how Nico Collins was out with the concussion and Dalton Schultz didn't play. Or Dalton Schultz got hurt in the first quarter with the calf injury, and then Tank Dell didn't play, was still injured, and he hasn't played, and they really didn't have anything going on the ground game. But you know what? You play with the guys you have, and that excuse just never flies in my book. I don't care what people have to say. Look at the Patriots wide receiving core and look at the Texans offensive wide receiving core. Compare the two. We're not going to sit here and play what ifs. We don't do that. That's not how it goes. You play with the guys you have on the field. That's how it goes. It's never going to be about the way people want to make that narrative. Oh, the Texans, if they were healthy, it's like the same thing you could say with the Niners. If the Niners were fully healthy against the Seattle Seahawks, it's like, nah. We don't do that here. You play with the guys you have, and that's how it goes. I was told that Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter were going to be clamping Kayshon Boutte and Stephon Diggs, and the Patriots aren't going to be able to score, and Drake May is going to be put in the dirt. It's like, well, last I checked, Drake May did have 3 touchdowns. So you can take that way whichever you want. And I was loving it. Texans fans were chirping and trash talking on social media all week. This isn't the Brady era. It's over. It's done. You guys are losing at home. Drake May is not this. Drake May is not that. They're still going to sit here and they're still going to trash talk the Patriots because Drake May had 4 turnovers and he wasn't clean. He wasn't sharp. It's like, it is Drake May's second playoff game. Just remember that. CJ Stroud has played a few more playoff games than Drake May, and Drake May has just as many playoff wins as CJ Stroud now. So, do I still think CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback in the NFL? Yes, I do, but I think people tend to forget the Patriots have a good defense, and it is really hard to win in Foxborough a January game when it's snowing like that, when you're not used to that. And yes, you're expected to come to play in all weather conditions. It doesn't matter. He played at Ohio State. Or whatever, he's from California. But the point is the Patriots defense deserves a lot more credit than what it is getting out there. CJ Stroud, I think, is a franchise quarterback. I think he still has it in him. He's just got to find that confidence again because he was the rookie of the year at one point. The Patriots were sending a bunch of blitzes at him. And if they can get their offensive line figured out, I think they'll be a much better team next year. And doesn't seem like they're going anywhere because they still have a lot of young talent on that defense. But yes, you could totally say in a perfect world, CJ Stroud blew that game for the Texans. They should have won that game with any other quarterback, but that's not how I go about it. That's the quarterback that plays for the Houston Texans. And back what I was saying a little earlier, oh, well, Justin Herbert came into Foxborough and they lost. Well, if we had another quarterback and put him in instead of CJ Stroud, it's like, okay, then that's a whole what if scenario. We don't play that. That's not how it goes. Anyways, super proud of this team from the Patriots, where they were from the beginning of the season to where they are now. Like I said, job is not done. We have to win in Denver this Sunday and go to a Super Bowl. But our focus is on Denver. We're not just going to think we're going to cakewalk in there. I don't play those games. We still have a game to play on Sunday. I did like what D'Amico Ryans had to say. I'm backing my guys. This is our quarterback, because you don't want to go out there and say out in the media afterwards, like, he played trash or you want to trash talk him or players are talking down on him, like Will Anderson, like said, like that's our guy. Like that is the right way to approach it. Like other instances you've seen in the past, like people have, downplayed it and put their quarterback down. But in a situation like that, it was really tough for him. I feel bad for, the Texans like that because they have really good defense. And, if they did beat the Patriots and I would have hoped they would have went all the way just because of how fun that defense is. Like I have not watched a defense like that in the NFL that is that good in years. Yeah, the Legion of Boom, the 2015 Broncos defense, some of those Patriots defenses years ago. This Seattle and Denver defense in the still of the AFC and NFC Championship are both really good, but I don't think they're as good as Houston's defense. Now, of course, the Patriots have had to go up against two really, really good defenses, so I think that battle tests them for this upcoming game this Sunday in Denver. Aside from that, we'll talk about our championship previews in a little bit. We're moving on to the Rams and the Bears. Well, that game lived up to everything and more. 20-17, the final score. Caleb Williams with one of the craziest throws I think I've ever seen in my life. 4th and 5, game's on the line, backpedals, runs back, and just zips it to Cole Kmet. Now, some people are going to sit here and say that was offensive pass interference on Cole Kmet. That shouldn't have been a touchdown. But that play was something out of Madden. Like, seriously. Like, there's only a couple quarterbacks in the NFL that can make that throw. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Lamar Jackson, maybe. Probably Lamar Jackson, yeah. And maybe one other quarterback. Maybe Drake May. Like, maybe. But those 4 quarterbacks there that can make that throw, Caleb Williams is a special talent. Now, you can blame Caleb Williams for the loss, for the throw to DJ Moore, for the interception, and he had 3 picks in the game. People are just going to sit here and look at the box score. Caleb Williams was the only reason why the Bears were in that game. The Bears defense stepped up big time when it needed to. They shut the Rams offense down. Kyren Williams had 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. But, yeah, I mean, it was a great game. But, my biggest thing is Ben Johnson's style of play, the greediness kind of caught up to him. But that's Ben Johnson's style of play. He's never going to change. That was their bread and butter. That was their identity all year going for it. It was the same thing in Detroit last year. So I think the Bears' future is really bright. I really do. I think with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, that was their first year together. And now you have the opportunity to run it back next year. And their run game was really good this year with Monangai and DeAndre Swift. And Loveland took a really big step as a rookie. Their defense was solid at times, but holding the Rams to 20 points was huge. It was a snow type game. I think it lived up to the hype and more, but I'll always replay that 4th and 5 from Caleb Williams in the back of my mind. Like I always will. I'm not going to sit here and blame Caleb Williams for that loss to the DJ Moore throw. DJ Moore should have run a different route. He shouldn't have thrown that ball. No, I think that was a bad play call in that situation there. You had you had still opportunities to still win that game. And then you throw that interception. Cam Curl did make a heck of a play on that ball though with DJ Moore, like diving across the field like that. Like, I don't think you can really like script that up anymore, but overall it was a great game. It really was. It was an awesome divisional game. Stafford, with 258 on the day, no touchdowns. He had 4 sacks. So the Bears were able to get pressure on Stafford. And we'll talk about that in the Seattle game as well. And, the fourth quarter, play with like a few seconds. What was it? I think it was like 10 or 12 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And Williams just zips it. Like, there's so many more things from that game, but that obviously was like the highlight of that game. Like, everyone on social media was just absolutely erupting after that touchdown. So hats off to the Bears on a great season. The Rams had a great game as well. Now they're going on to Seattle. But there was one thing that I did want to talk about, kind of the same, the Brandon Cooks, Jaquan McMillan thing. It was like a part 2 in this game before we did move on, excuse me. The Davante Adams play where the Bears basically ripped it away from him. The same thing in the Brandon Cooks one. Davante Adams' knee was down. Like, he was 100% down. I don't think it has, like, people like Bears fans close your eyes. I don't think it has as much like a way. It's not weighing on people as much as the Bills and the Broncos game. But still, that was a catch by Davante Adams. And they were like, Bears fans, look away. Bills fans, look away. Like, no, that was a catch by Davante Adams. All right, moving on to the AFC Championship game with the Patriots and the Denver Broncos. Well, we just talked about my Patriots not too long ago on the show. How do I feel? Well, you know what? If Bo Nix was playing this game, I would still feel confident about my team. I don't know if you guys do remember, I did pick the Patriots and the Broncos to represent each other, for the Broncos and the Patriots to be in the AFC Championship, the 1 and 2 seeds. And I also did pick the NFC with the Rams and the Seahawks. Maybe just because I watch football a lot in my life and I understand. No. But all right, Patriots are 8-0 on the road this season, and the Broncos are 8-1 at home. Well, something's got to give. And I know it's Jared Stidham, and Bo Nix got hurt, and that storyline is going to be weighing on fans and people all week, this entire week. That's what the conversation is going to be. But you know what? I do remember in a Super Bowl, the Patriots played the Eagles and they lost in Minnesota with a quarterback named Nick Foles. So it can happen again. So don't get on social media or don't get cocky because we're playing against Jared Stidham. Jared Stidham did play for the Patriots. Sean Payton is a really good coach. He can call plenty of plays to put you in a really tough position. Denver has a really good defense. There's been crazier things that have happened in the NFL. You never know. I mean, there's been quarterbacks in the NFL, I'm sure before my time and just in general, that have been carried to Super Bowls by defenses. Jared Stidham doesn't make any mistakes, and the Patriots don't dial up the pressure that they were able to do against the Chargers and the Texans. This is going to be a very, very tough game because the Broncos have arguably one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I don't think this Patriots game is going to be a cakewalk. I am all in on the Patriots to win this game. But I am not going to sit here and say we're just going to walk into Denver and blow them out the doors. I see the spread is -4.5 to 5.5, and it's teetering back and forth, and it probably moves to 6 at game time. But that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. You have one game to get to the Super Bowl. The Patriots haven't played in Denver since the Bailey Zappi, I think, Christmas Day game. Denver is a really, really hard place to play. It is not going to be an easy task. And I hope the Patriots can prove me wrong and we go in there and we take care of our business. But it is not going to be an easy game. We all we need. Going to be a very tough game. Broncos have a really good defense. They rush the passer really well. They run the ball pretty darn well. They have a really good offensive line. If Jared Stidham can make the throws that he's expected to make in a game like this, then it's going to be a dogfight. And I think it's going to be a dogfight. I don't think the Patriots are going to blow them out. The Patriots offensive line has been very shaky. If Drake May can clean up those turnovers, then the Patriots will win this game. Just like they beat the Texans, right? But it remains to be seen if how Jared Stidham will play under pressure. He hasn't thrown a pass since 2023, so that whole story there. My keys to this game for the Patriots and the Broncos. I'll give you my Patriots keys, and I'll give you my Broncos keys. Patriots run the ball effectively like they did in the Texans game. Drake May doesn't turn the ball over. You take care of the football. You get the Broncos on third down and long, put pressure on Jared Stidham, dial up the blitzes that you've been able to dial up against the Chargers and the Texans, you can win this game. Now, if that doesn't happen and you can't, and now for the Broncos keys here, Jared Stidham doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't make any mistakes. Those two, of course, are the same thing. The Broncos run the ball effectively like they've been able to do. Their defense gets pressure on May. They get him to turn the ball over. They can win this game. So I'm not going to sit here and say this is going to be a cakewalk for the Patriots because I don't think it's going to be. Now, the Patriots, you've got to watch every single bit of film that Jared Stidham has ever thrown when he was on the Patriots. You got to remember when he was at Baylor, when he was at Auburn, his time on the Broncos in preseason, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. He's a mobile quarterback. He's not slow. And if you can get pressure on him and you can send some disguises at him, you're going to be all right. Now, the third thing I'll say is the Patriots beat Justin Herbert. The Patriots beat CJ Stroud. So if a quarterback like Jared Stidham, who you're facing, you definitely have the upper hand because you can sit here and say Jared Stidham doesn't scare anybody. Like that, there's Patriots just going to come in here and cakewalk. No, but you're feeling good because you're going against Jared Stidham. But the approach they have to come in with is the same approach that Bo Nix is playing. Don't think that Jared Stidham is playing. It doesn't matter. Bo Nix is playing. That's the mindset that they need to have. And that's exactly where I'll leave it. You guys know who I'm picking. I don't need to say who I'm picking. I'm confident in my boys. I'm riding with us till the end. We all we got. We all we need. That's exactly how I'm feeling. But it's not going to be an easy game. It is going to be a dogfight. Denver has a really good defense. They can create a lot of turnovers just like they did in the Bills game, in the divisional game, and they're at home. They got the home crowd advantage. We're on the road. We're 8-0 on the road this season. Let's make it 9-0. All right, moving on to the Rams and the Seahawks. Well, some people say this might be the best game all season, right? Because the winner of this game goes to the Super Bowl, the Rams and the Seahawks. And some people are saying these are the two best teams left, with the Patriots and the Broncos not as good as these teams. Well, only one team can win, and my Super Bowl pick was the Patriots and the Seahawks. And that's exactly what I'm sticking with. I got the Seahawks to win this game in a really close game. I think their defense does enough. And I think their defense is much better than Chicago's. And they're going to be able to put pressure on Matthew Stafford. Now, Stafford was sacked 4 times in the Bears game. But this Seahawks defense is totally different. They can rush the passer at an extreme high rate. They send blitzes off the edge. They've got the corners. They've got the secondary. They're at home. They're very well coached with Mike Macdonald. They don't really make many mistakes. Their offense doesn't really make many mistakes. But going back to their defense for a second, they rush the passer extremely well. They have the personnel. Nikum and Warri's a dog. Tariq Woolen, DeMarcus Lawrence, like that team is really, really good. They should be favored in this game. Now you're betting against Matthew Stafford, Joey. He's having an MVP year. Something's got to give in this game. But I think it goes down to Sam Darnold. This is Sam Darnold's game to win. Exactly what I said last week, but this game has way more stakes. Sam Darnold with the oblique injury, he's going to be healthy this week. This is exactly what the Rams paid Sam Darnold to do. They paid him for a moment like this. You're the 1 seed. You're 14-3. You've had one of your best seasons in recent years in franchise history, aside from the Super Bowl that you won against the Broncos years ago with the Legion of Boom. But this is a total different era. This team has to come to play this Sunday. I know the loss of Zach Charbonnet will be huge, but I don't think you can put the ball in Kenneth Walker's hands. You have to put the ball in Sam Darnold's hands to win this game. You're not going to win the ball running the ball like you were last week against the Niners. That defense is way too banged up. The Rams have a really good defensive line with Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Colby Young. They have a really good defense, and they've got a good defensive line. Their secondary, they play kind of better than what they're they play better than what they're supposed to, like living up to it in a way. Of course, with Cam Crowell, Kitchens, and of course, Emmanuel Forbes was out. So it'll be really interesting to see, but I'm rolling with the Seahawks in this game. I really, really can't wait for this game. My keys too is Matthew Stafford going to be able to make big plays, get the ball down the field to Nakua and Devontae Adams? Are they going to be able to run the ball effectively with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum? So with McVay, what is he going to draw up? Because you know McVay's an excellent play caller. Chess match between McVay and McDonald. Chess match between Chris Shula and Chris Shula, the Rams DC, and Klint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. So this comes down to coaching, in my opinion. How can you get pressure on Sam Darnold with your defensive line? Because if you can get pressure on Sam Darnold and you can get pressure on Sam Darnold and make him feel uncomfortable, it's going to be a long day. Is Sam Darnold going to come up in the clutch? That's my biggest thing, is like, is Sam Darnold going to wet the bed? We've been waiting all season. Like, is Sam Darnold turn the page? Because we shall see. It's going to be a great one. So those are my picks right there. I have the Patriots beating the Broncos in a close game, and I have the Seahawks beating the Rams in a close game. Maybe I'm wrong. Hey, you live by it. You that's what we live for, right? So, but my biggest thing is I could be completely wrong about the Seahawks beating the Rams. Rams could go in there and Sam Darnold could just absolutely just wet the bed, right? He's at home. You never know. So we'll see. But we'll move on to the NFL coaching cycle briefly here. Last night, Robert Saleh was hired by the Tennessee Titans, and when I saw that, I was like, huh? But then again, I thought to myself, well, if you don't want to hire an offensive-minded guy for Cam Ward, that's fine. You want to instill that toughness, that grit, that tenacity that Robert Saleh brings, you need to hire an offensive-minded guy for an offensive coordinator. Maybe take the Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels approach like the Patriots did. You have a really good talent in Cam Ward. And I was saying a couple months ago on the podcast, it'll be interesting to see who the Tennessee Titans hire for Cam Ward. Hire an offensive-minded guy. But that's not the approach they wanted to take. I'm okay with Robert Saleh because he's a good defensive-minded guy, and defense is really important in the NFL. I mean, he just basically had a heck of a job with the DC job with the Niners. Good for him for taking this, but I really want to see if they'll hire an offensive-minded guy for the right offensive coordinator for Cam Ward and get him some playmakers, because you saw how talented Cam Ward is this season for the Titans. Yeah, they were 3-14, but that's really my biggest thing, because that's your franchise piece right there. You picked him at number one. And I'm just excited to see how Robert Saleh will do in his next role as head coach, because you saw it was a disaster with Jets. And some people say, let's not blame Saleh. It really wasn't his fault. The Jets are a mess. The Titans really aren't in a much better position. But hey, he gets a second chance. He did a really great job with the Niners defense. But my biggest thing comes back to it is Cam Ward. Who are you going to get for him as an offensive mind? Be curious to see. I'm interested to see if maybe they can lure somebody from one of these big teams. You just saw the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator get hired by the Detroit Lions, which is an interesting move there as well. So that's kind of really my whole take on the whole Saleh thing. The biggest things for me is physical toughness, holding these players accountable, instilling, that hard grit, tenacity, and that, smash mouth football that Saleh brings to the table. Of course, you saw with the Niners and what he did with that Niners defense. That's how banged up they were. And that's really where I'll leave it there. Moving on to Kevin Stefanski being hired by the Atlanta Falcons. Two-time coach of the year, had a decent time in Cleveland, you could say. I mean, if you want to go about that way. But good for him. Atlanta Falcons just fired Raheem Morris, and they want to go with an offensive-minded guy in Kevin Stefanski. I'm not sold on Michael Penix, but I think Stefanski is a good coach. You saw what he did with the Browns at the beginning of his time there. They won a playoff game there, of course, with Baker Mayfield. As I just said, he's a two-time head coach. It'll be interesting to see now Matt Ryan is taking over in the front office. And will they re-sign Kyle Pitts? They just brought back defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Their defense actually is really good. I love the Falcons defense. I think that could be one of the best defenses in the NFL next season. What they are building upon from this season to next season, they've got a lot of good pieces. You got Watts out of Notre Dame, the rookie. You have what's his name out of Georgia. There is Jalen Walker from Georgia. There you have what's his name? Oh my God. What's his name? The safety for the Falcons. Oh my God, I'm blanking here hard. Oh my God, not number 31. Not Justin Simmons. What's the safeties for the safety for the Falcons? I can't remember his name now. Oh my God. That's because the Falcons are not really in playoff contention right now. I'm not really thinking about that. But oh my God, what is this Falcons safety's name? Oh my God, it's going to drive me absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'm excited for Kevin Stefanski to be hired there. I think it's the right hire. I'm not extremely sold on it. I'm not jumping in the streets for the Falcons, but maybe some Falcons are saying, thank God we got rid of Raheem Morris. We got some stability in here with Kevin Stefanski, and some discipline in there, because the Falcons are way too talented as a team to be, finishing the way they were. So yeah, my biggest thing really is their defense. That's my biggest concern, my biggest thing, which I'm excited about from last season. But I can't remember this. Oh my God, what is his name? Guys, this is going to drive me crazy. What is this guy's name? Oh my gosh. It's not Justin Simmons. What is his name? Falcons. He's actually good. Jesse Bates from the Bengals. That's who it is. Oh my gosh. I knew it was, he's number 3. That's right. Ah, gosh. Okay. Anyways, moving on to the Dolphins hiring Jeff Hafley. Well, they were linked to John Harbaugh. Some fans thought they were going to hire Sean McDermott after he was just fired, which we'll talk about next. How do you feel about Jeff Hafley being hired by the Miami Dolphins? Well, if you're asking me, I think it's a solid hire. It's not the hire that I would have went with. I know, of course, in a perfect world, the Dolphins should have hired Shula, the Rams DC, because, of course, Don Shula's, that's his grandson, and it makes total sense for Miami, bring back that physical culture. But then when the Dolphins hired John Eric Sullivan to be their new GM, I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought it was Jeff Hafley all the way. You don't just hire that GM there and you connect the pieces. So he did a great job with Green Bay, and I think anything's better than Mike McDaniel. Really, this is a guy who's understands what it takes, I guess, in cold weather football with the Green Bay Packers, and that grit, that culture, and build something back down in Miami, because right now it's too flashy down there. It's just, there's no accountability in the locker room. and they're going in a different direction. I think the Dolphins, it'll be interesting to see if they do draft a quarterback. Of course, they have the number 11 pick. They don't have any money in free agency. They're going to have to cut Tua after June 1st, because if they do that before, it's going to be an absolute, mayhem with the cap there. But hey, there's a will, there's a way. New coaches coming in, new GM. Tua is going to be gone. A lot of other guys are going to leave. So I'm excited for Dolphins fans, because I have some friends that are Dolphins fans, and a lot of them were disappointed. They wanted Harbaugh. They wanted Shula. Some wanted McDermott, of course, yesterday after the news came out, or some other names that provide more stability. Tomlin, but Hafley was the guy that they were homed in on because of the John Eric Sullivan. Listen, I would have loved for the Dolphins to hire Shula from the Rams. I thought it would have been a home run hire. It made perfect sense. He's lived the Dolphins culture his entire life growing up. He knows, from his grandfather. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. This is the guy that they wanted to hire, and I'll be interested to see how he can revitalize that defense, because they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. That's my biggest thing there. Offensively, they have pieces, of course, with Waddle and Achane and Washington. But he's a young guy. He's 46 years old. He helped Green Bay out with their defenses. Like, of course, with Parsons, like they looked like one of the best defenses in the NFL. Then he got hurt, and then they lost some other guys, but their secondary was kind of banged up. But this is a total reset with Hafley here. 5-year deal. It's a long-term. It's a long contract, but some people think it's very bold, and they're like, why didn't they hire anybody else? Why didn't they wait? But once they hired John Eric Sullivan, I had a very strong feeling that it was going to be Jeff Hafley. So bottom line is, it's a complete new era in South Florida. You can completely remove Tua and Mike McDaniel out of your mind, because they're officially gone. Well, maybe one of the biggest things on the show, aside from the national championship game last night, and I was watching this Bills-Broncos game, and I thought to myself, if the Broncos win this game and the Buffalo Bills don't win, Sean McDermott's going to be fired. I had a really strong feeling. I had a strong feeling, but I wasn't confident all the way. And then when I saw the stuff that he was saying afterwards, and he was basically arguing, at the press conference, and basically just kind of trash talking the refs, I think he knew that his job was over. You don't just go and do that for just the heck of it. Yes, you can, battle and fight for your players, but I think they gave him the ultimatum. If you don't win this game, you're out. It's been 9 seasons. And unfortunately, that's the way the NFL, the long type 10 years for these coaches is over. Like I said on the podcast last week, I think the days of the Tomlins, the Harbaughs, I should have clipped this and posted this on social media. The days of the coaches with the long tenures are over. It's just absolutely insane. You don't get much wiggle room anymore. And, some fans are upset that they fired Sean McDermott because of stability and what he instilled there and how good of a defensive minded coach he is. But, sometimes having a coach like Sean McDermott and firing him is not a bad thing, because you couldn't get over the hump. You were 8-8 as a postseason record with him and no Super Bowl appearances. And I don't think it's all on Sean McDermott either. I think some of it has to do on Brandon Beane, the GM. Some of the draft picks they've had in the past couple drafts just really haven't panned out. Like, I think they're always going to sit there and they're going to ponder in their mind and go, we drafted Keon Coleman over Xavier Worthy. We did that trade with the Chiefs, who are our arch rival in the AFC, who Josh Allen has never been able to beat in the postseason. Like, you sit there and you think that. And then, of course, they drafted, of course, Osiris Torrance out of Florida. That was a home run pick there, offensive guard there from Florida. Then you drafted Kyrie Elam. That didn't work out. So, and these are first round talent guys. Of course, they drafted James Cook. So a lot of these guys, like the 2 tight end set with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, you can't figure out with the wide receiver 1 situation there. So you've got to find a guy. I think for me, it's an offensive minded guy that can maximize Josh Allen. You saw Joe Brady is now the OC. He took Ken Dorsey's spot. And who is going to come in here? I think really, if you don't want to promote Joe Brady for the offensive coordinator job, I think the perfect hire for the Buffalo Bills, offensive-minded guys. I know in ESPN they were mentioning Bill Belichick. Belichick's not taking that job. Don't go defensive-minded. Go offensive-minded for Josh Allen, because that's your strong suit. Go bring back Brian Daboll. Josh Allen had some of his best years with Brian Daboll there. Or you want to promote Joe Brady because you're comfortable, but I think you bring in a guy that's familiar, understands the culture, Brian Daboll. I don't know if people thought McDermott was going to be fired, but that's my biggest thing there. But yeah, Sean McDermott's 100% going to get another coaching job, and it'll be interesting to see who hires him. Of course, there's a lot of openings. Maybe the Steelers, maybe the Cardinals, maybe the Browns, the Ravens. Like, there's a lot of teams out there. I think the Ravens are going to go offensive minded, though. I don't think they're going to go with another defensive guy. It kind of feels like you're going backwards. It's like we just fired John Harbaugh. Why would we bring in Sean McDermott, who's kind of very similar in that aspect? So that's my thing there. But you know what? You got to find a guy that can maximize Josh Allen, because, who knows how many more years Josh Allen has at this type of level. But aside from all that, we're not going to sit here and say and bash Josh Allen. He's not clutch. He can't get it done. Going back to that Broncos game, the only reason why the Bills were in that game was because of Josh Allen. I promise you, take away Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills, they're probably a 3-win team. So that's how I feel about that. Briefly, we'll talk about the Chiefs bringing back Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator. I thought this was a no-brainer. This was a guy who's been there before. He understands the offense extremely well. Of course, winning Super Bowls there. They're losing out on Matt Nagy because he's probably going to be taking a head coaching job. So Bieniemy returns. He was there for 4 years. He had stints with UCLA. He was just the Bears running backs coach. And he was with the Commanders, of course. So I think this is a great pickup for the Kansas City Chiefs to bring back Eric Bieniemy. He understands Andy Reid's system. He understands the offense. He understands Patrick Mahomes. He's very comfortable with Mahomes, and I think he's a much better play caller than Matt Nagy. Bieniemy's he's got some bag of tricks. Yeah, of course they had the rough 6-11 season. So the reunite sometimes it's not bad for to reunite with coordinators. Look what the Patriots did with Josh McDaniels and how much success they've had this season. Bieniemy back to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's never a bad thing. These guys know the system really well, and now you're losing a guy like Matt Nagy. Why bring in an offensive coordinator that doesn't know the system or know the play calling like Bieniemy does? That's the biggest thing there. So briefly, we'll talk about Lions hiring Drew Petzing as their OC. I thought this was a really weird hire, if you ask me, because I thought there was other names on the market more than anything. Like, you have one of the best offenses in the NFL. You've got, the personnel is ridiculous for offensive playmakers wise with Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Jameson Williams, of Goff throwing them the ball. So like, this was a weird hire to me. Like, the Lions must have saw something, or like Mike McDaniel didn't want the job because obviously he interviewed there. But I thought there was other names out there more than anything. Like Petzing, he didn't really do much in Arizona. Like that, this doesn't really this doesn't really knock my socks off. Like, for friends of mine that are Lions fans, Lions have a really fun offense, and Petzing more than anything. Like, the Cardinals just finished 3-14, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just okay, we just need somebody to fill the role, and we have the playmakers, as long as the guy can call the right plays, and that's more important than anything. So I just thought it was a bold hire more than anything, if you ask me. Maybe Dan Campbell still wants to call the plays, and this guy is just to fill a spot, but I thought there was more names out there that they could have totally hired. Well, we'll move on to John Harbaugh being hired by the New York Giants. Well, Billy, my best friend, is a Giants fan, and at first, when the John Harbaugh news came out with the Ravens, it was the Giants all the way. And then, of course, Mike McDaniel was fired, and then it became the Dolphins. Oh, John Harbaugh's deciding between the Dolphins, and he's deciding between the Giants, and he's talking with the Falcons, and he didn't even have any interest in the Titans. I thought the John Harbaugh hire for the New York Giants was a no-brainer. Stability is the biggest key in the NFL. You just saw last year the Patriots with Gerard Mayo, with that circus, and people can say Gerard Mayo didn't have a fair opportunity. He didn't have a fair shot, but Mike Vrabel was on the market, and you couldn't pass that up. The Giants couldn't pass up on John Harbaugh. This franchise is going down the tubes very, very fast. Yeah, the coaching hires that they've hired in the past couple of years have been an absolute dumpster fire. Dable, we thought, was the right guy out of New York. And then before that then you had Joe Judge, and a while ago was Ben McAdoo, and then Shermer, and all these coaches, but no, John Harbaugh was the right hire. Stability. I think the Giants will be in a much better position than they were last year. Maybe they take the Patriots blueprint and they say, hey, Jackson Dart, is a pretty darn good quarterback. He played good as a rookie. We have offensive pieces with Scadaboo and Neighbors. Our offensive line isn't terrible. We have another top 5 pick. Harbaugh comes in here and he revamps everything, and we give him full control, and we say, hey, John, what you just did in Baltimore for 18 seasons, we need some help over here in New York, because what we have going on right now is an absolute mess. It's like somebody took a trash bag and just lit it on fire, how bad the Giants have been the past couple of years. It's like, John, get us back to where we were with the 2 lucky Super Bowls that we won. No, but get us back to the culture that we once were, the team that we once were, because it's been an absolute mess. So I love this hire for the Giants. I think this was an absolute no-brainer. And 18 seasons there, 180, 113 record, 12 playoff appearances, and a Super Bowl title. Hey, the guy knows something. I'm not going to sit here and say and reiterate what I was saying before. It was 100% time for the Baltimore Ravens to move on from John Harbaugh. Fresh start, new change of scenery for him. It made perfect sense for both parties to move on. Being fired for him, hey, look, it's looking up for him for the Giants. Top 5 pick, young quarterback, fresh change of scenery, knows what it takes to win. Of course, I'm excited for Harbaugh over there. Hopefully the Giants can be better than what they were, because watching that product the past couple seasons and watching them being 4-13 last year was just this past season has been absolutely embarrassing. I think they won 4 games last year. I say they probably win 8 or 9 games this year, give or take. That's kind of really where I'm feeling on that. But yeah, biggest thing for me for Harbaugh is how can he maximize Jackson Dart? Who are you going to hire as an offensive coordinator? I know they saw potentially he might be bringing Todd Monken with him. Can you fix that defense? Because they have pieces on there. They've got a pretty darn good defensive line, and the experience is everything. They just needed somebody to come in there and be like, hey, we need to figure this out now. Like, this has got to change. We have way too much young talent on this team to be 4-13 again. Well, we'll move on from the NFL and we'll move to college football. The last game of college football was last night, Indiana, Miami. I ended up watching the highlights this morning, and you can take this so many different ways. Miami and Indiana should have blew them out, but you know what? It was a heck of a game. I'm just so glad it wasn't a blowout more than anything, and everything that I thought in that game is exactly what happened. Miami was able to put pressure on Fernando Mendoza. Miami did a really good job running the ball effectively with Mark Fletcher having over 100 yards on the day. And in the end, my biggest thing, what I said was, is if Carson Beck turns the ball over, this team is in trouble. And he had the freaking interception. And you go back into your mind. Carson Beck turned the ball over, had the interception in the end of the game against Louisville. Carson Beck had the interception against SMU, and he had the interception against Miami. And I'm sorry, Miami fans, I know you're probably not going to want to hear that. But I'm not going to sit here and say Carson Beck lost Miami that game, because Miami was down 10-0 in the first half when they couldn't score any points. And that was the biggest thing there, because you were playing behind the entire game. Yeah, your defense stepped up big in the second half. You got more pressure on Mendoza. You did the best you could limiting their run game, because Black and Demby were just absolutely exceptional on the ground. But you got pressure on Mendoza with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, but you couldn't do anything in the first half. And that was the key. And the missed field goal in the first half was it. You missed that field goal, and now you're down 10-0. It was very physical type game, exactly what I expected. You could have called the targeting on Miami's defensive player when Mendoza was bleeding, and it was very ticky-tacky with some of the calls, but I just loved watching that game. I'm just so glad it wasn't a blowout more than anything. And, hats off to Indiana on getting their first national championship. If you would have told me Indiana would have won a national championship a couple years ago in college football, I would have told you were absolutely crazy. And here comes all of the people about the Big Ten is the best conference in college football and this and that. Yeah, the Big Ten is the best conference in college football this season. I will 100% admit it. I'm not going to sit here and beat around the bush. Indiana was the best team in college football all year long. But you know what? It was a heck of a game. I'm so glad it wasn't a blowout. That was my biggest thing was like, hopefully Indiana does not run away with this when they're up 10-0. And you can take this so many different ways. If Carson Beck didn't throw that ball, we don't play what ifs. It was a bad play call. It was a bad decision. You didn't need to make that decision there in the end. Yeah, you didn't have any timeouts. And I watched it back and everything was covered. over the middle. Everything was covered underneath. And I watched it and I was like, maybe if Beck would have stepped up in the pocket, he could have threw it away. Maybe he could have just taken the sack, but that's how it is in football. You live and die by it. That's the play that they decided to go with. I thought that they could have went somewhere else, like, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but that's what ifs. Indiana, their defensive back made a heck of a play. He saw where Beck was going. He read his eyes the entire way. And probably the hardest thing or the coldest thing probably you'll ever hear in sports from an Indiana head coach named Curt Cignetti is, I win, Google me. From where they were in 2023 to where they are now, 3-9 in 2023 when he took over, to being 16-0, having one of the greatest seasons in college football history, finishing 11-2 last year. It's one of the most remarkable turnarounds in sports history. Like, people will never forget that turnaround from Indiana. Like, if you're a sports fan, like, you may forget about Indiana, like, national championship, because maybe they never win one again, right? Maybe it never happens again. Like, you never know when you're going to get back there. Like Ohio State last year, their fans, and they thought they were going to get back there this year and they're going to run it back to back. Ohio State may not get back there for another 5 years. The Florida Gators haven't made a national championship in almost 20 years. So, like, you just never know. The window was there. They took the opportunity, and Mendoza had that insane play on 4th down. And that was so gutsy by Curt Cignetti, by calling on 4th and 5, Mendoza, the QB draw, running it into the end zone. That was gutsy by by Curt Cignetti, going for it on 4th down again in the second quarter, throwing to Charlie Becker. There's something special about this Indiana team. It was a great game, but I want to give credit to Miami. They battled all season long. Some people were saying they shouldn't even have been in the playoff, and I picked Miami to win that game. I thought their defense had what it took. I thought their defensive line was going to play great, which it did. They got pressure on Mendoza, and hats off to them on a great season, getting back to the national championship where they haven't been since 2002. The U is officially back with NIL now. It was awesome to see them get there. All the top 25, top 10 teams they beat getting there. You beat Ohio State, you beat Ole Miss, you beat Texas A&M, you beat Notre Dame at the beginning of the season. Like, Miami has really nothing to hang their hats about. There's nothing to be ashamed of from that season. I know America won because Miami lost, and nobody wants to see, a team get their 6th national championship, and everyone wants to see the underdog win. But Miami was an underdog, if you want to, in some ways as well. Like, Indiana's never been there. They've never won one, and you're happy for the underdog for winning. But Miami had a great season. They really did. And it sucks to see Carson Beck, throw the pick in the end, and Beck screwed it up, and Carson Beck's going to Carson Beck, and he's always the same quarterback, but they've battled hard in the second half. They played a really good game in the second half, and what could have been, right? We'll see what ifs for a second, if they would have scored points in the first half, or if Indiana doesn't get it on 4th and 5, or they don't get the opportunity that they got in the end, if there's no false start on the Indiana offensive lineman. So if the Indiana guy drops the interception, but in the end, Indiana was the better team. Mendoza proved why he was the best quarterback in college football this entire season. They deserved to win that game. It was a smash mouth type physical football game. Miami took a page out of the old Miami Hurricanes teams from the 80s. Beaten Indiana at the line of scrimmage, smash mouth type football, being very physical with Indiana's wide receivers. So, but yeah, Indiana had a historical type season. But one thing we love to debate on this show: don't sit here and say to yourself, Indiana is a better team than the 2019 LSU team. I saw that on the internet. Indiana would get absolutely dog walked by that 2019 LSU team. Compare the seasons between Joe Burrow and Fernando Mendoza, it's not even close. I know we're comparing the Big Ten and the SEC, and pretty sure this was before NIL era. Indiana would get absolutely BTA'd by LSU. Indiana would get absolutely BTA'd by the 2025 Ohio State team. Any one of those historical teams, Indiana gets absolutely routed by. The amount of NFL players on that LSU team compared to this Indiana team, it's not even close. It's not even comparable or come close. Some people are going to say, why are you comparing these two teams? Just give Indiana their flowers, because that's what we do. We debate on this show. Just like we debated the catch from Brandon Cooks earlier on the show. So yeah, the comparison, it's not a comparison. It's not even close. That's like comparing the I don't know, like let's say like the 73-9 Warriors to like the Bulls, or one of those there. Maybe those are closer than these two teams here. But no, there's no comparison. 2019 LSU scored more points overall. They had more touchdowns. They faced a way tougher schedule compared to what Indiana just faced this season. Yeah, Indiana went 16-0, but no. Joe Burrow's numbers, 60 touchdowns compared to Mendoza's. I think he had a total of 45. 45, I think, in total. 60, like, no. Like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Patrick Queen. I think Derek Stingley was on that team. In LSU's offensive line, no. But like I said, the Big Ten was the best conference in college football this entire season. I admitted it. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to lie. The Big Ten, they've won 3 national championships in a row. They deserved it. They're the best conference in college football. But hey, there's always next year. They're the best conference in college football. I admitted it, guys. I admitted it. Well, on that note, guys, I think that does it for us. Just kidding. We got one more thing to talk about. We're going to move away from football for a quick second. We're going to talk about Kyle Tucker going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And everyone was upset about Kyle Tucker signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers on a $240 million deal for 4 years. And Cubs fans said he can walk out the door. And the Dodgers ruined baseball. Like I said, after the Dodgers won the World Series, and now that they got Kyle Tucker, until the MLB commissioner, Rob Manfred, and until they change these rules, nothing is going to change. They allow this so people don't get to complain. Until the MLB changes these rules, nothing is going to change. The Dodgers are doing exactly what they're allowed to do. Yeah, there's no salary cap, and they're way over. There's no luxury tax. So, and yeah, they're paying the price with being having these insane contracts with Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, now Kyle Tucker, Yamamoto, but they allow this. And you know what? Kyle Tucker, if I was him, I would 100% go to the Dodgers as well. And when I thought about this, I related this in my mind to Lane Kiffin going to LSU. You would do the exact same thing, exactly what Kyle Tucker did. Stability, championships, but it doesn't matter as much, and he's not going to earn that ring like another player would, and he's not respected. It's like, okay, but until the MLB changes the rules, why the heck wouldn't you do it? It makes perfect sense if I'm Kyle Tucker to go to a team that's won back-to-back World Series, that has the opportunity to three-peat, that has stability with the organization, and they're not a mess. And the players know what it takes to win. And so if you're asking me, yeah, it's a no-brainer that Kyle Tucker went there. The Yankees used to do it years ago when they paid all the players, and maybe people complain then, but until they change the rules, nothing is going to happen. Baseball is going to stay the exact same way it has been without a salary cap. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, small market teams are never going to win in baseball. It's never going to happen. Until they change the rules, until they put a salary cap on this, never going to change. Hey, and before NIL, a small market team like Indiana would have never won. And that's exactly where I'll leave it. Congrats to the Hoosiers on winning a national championship. Can't believe college football is over. Sad time for college football to be over. Don't get sad. We got NFL football still. We got the AFC Championship. We got the Super Bowl. We still got 2 games left. So on that note, guys, that does it for us. I really want to say thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. Super excited that the Patriots won. They're still in the dance. We talked a lot. We talked about a lot on the show. We really did. All the NFL coaching stuff that's happened in the past couple days, the championship preview for Denver and New England, the divisional recap, and then, of course, last night's awesome game between Miami and Indiana. Great way to end the season. So thankful it wasn't a blow up. But make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you guys next week after the Patriots and the Broncos game and after the Seahawks and the Rams game. Until then, have a great week, guys.